Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hi, I'm Sue Rose Minahan, and today is May 9th, 2021. This is on our side of the hemisphere because the other side, I don't know if they have Mother's Day. It is Mother's Day. And I and my team, we're not the official mothers that one might traditionally think of, yet we have mothers. And we came into this earth on that platform. And we also mother ourselves, and we have fur baby mothers. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Some of us, and many things that we create and nurture. So today's topic is compassionate truth. And we will be talking about two archetypes. One is about Ceres, which is a dwarf planet. They didn't know what Ceres was, and it has a long mythology too. But it went from asteroid to this to that. And it is the mother-child archetype, interestingly. And yesterday, it shifted signs. It was not a long transit. Maybe it was. Now the next one's going to be for a couple of months until the end of July. Actually, that's quite a while, isn't it? May, June, July, yeah, 3 months. And it just shifted into Taurus, which is our archetypal period month. And the other one is Jupiter. Jupiter in the next 4 days is going to be shifting into Pisces. Now that's a year cycle. And I was noticing going years back that Jupiter doesn't always retrograde. That's an apparent retrograde. That word's always thrown in because, yes, it's what we see here on Earth, but it's our experience. So we say retrograde. And we add apparent so people understand that's the fact. But often it just goes into a sign and continues for its year cycle because it takes a year to go around the sun. But this year, no. It wants to dive back to Aquarius and dive forward and dive back. But we're getting a little window. And amazingly, that window is going to be from when, as of yesterday, when Ceres went into Taurus, it'll be at the exact same degree, which is an amazing degree. And we'll talk about that. It's kind of the epitome, is 28 degrees of a sign. And when Ceres goes into the next sign, of course, that's Gemini, on August 1st, Jupiter, because it's going to be retrograding, then it's going to be right back to home base, 28 degrees. So what is this all about? We are going to kind of find out. But the other thing is just to mention that, and maybe I did, because a lot of things we've talked about, and did I bring it up? But it is about the mother-child relationship with Ceres. There's a long mythology. She was, it's an underworld process too. It's deep in our soul. So this whole process of Jupiter that will be going retrograde, where we'll have our compassionate going out to other people. Oh, what are you all about? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, and all that, which is the better side of ourselves, to have some empathy with perhaps necessary boundaries, but still we need to be caring of each other, to then turning that within and going, oh, did I forget? What did I forget about myself? So that I can be a more whole or unified, or at least aware of my parts that are there. I don't know if all parts absolutely get unified into this great coalition of wholeness, but yet I'm aware of them. I go, oh yeah, there's this and that part of ourselves. So we will talk about that too. All right. Well, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. You know, we are a YouTube now, and we're also a podcast. So you can always check back. But if you want to subscribe, just remember, just go to Talk Cosmos and ding, ding, ding. They'll get you on your calendar. Okay, enough of that. And happy Mother's Day to all those folks that are mothers and that had mothers that passed. Mine passed. And yeah, okay. Lots of love. And now we're ready for cosmic collaboration.
Investigating the deeper archetypal questions related to understanding astrological energetic aspects for growth patterns to unify mind, body, spirit, and emotions, this is your Cosmic Collaboration Panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Susie Kerr-Wright, astrologer, certified psychic medium, tarot reader, life coach, and Reiki master. I love to bring what I call cosmic common sense to the world through private sessions as well as all types of media. My work has been published in Chewy.com, Brides Magazine, Good Housekeeping, Cosmopolitan, Elle, Bustle, and more. And I'm a regular guest on Today in Nashville. I've had my own radio shows, and I was the weekly on-air astrologer for WSCA-FM. And I love to teach astrology and psychic development.
And I'm Amanda Pierce, a soul-centered astrologer, astrological consultant, and empowerment-based meditation teacher. I have a BA in psychology, I'm a wellness enthusiast with a passion for healthy eating, and I enjoy creating new realities and shifting old paradigms.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop. Well, that's very appropriate as we're splashing around in Pisces. And of course, Neptune has been in Pisces for, well, it's 13, 14 years. Will be, I think, until 2026. Well, hello, Susie and Amanda. Hi.
Hello.
This is great. Yes.
Happy to be here with you on this Mother's Day.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. We're kind of, yes, our sisterhood or something here. Yeah. Maybe that, I was thinking, we're not, yes. Talking about Ceres, that was yesterday when it actually ingressed, and it will be until August 1st. So that's the period of time. And there is a mythology and archetypal. I think, Amanda, you were interested in bringing up some points about that.
Well, yeah, so the basis of the myth is that Ceres, who's the mother of Persephone, Ceres and Persephone were extremely close, and depending on how you view the myth, the traditional story goes that Persephone was abducted by Pluto and taken to the underworld. And Ceres was bereft. Like, she just was in so much grief that as the goddess of, I believe it was agriculture, the harvest, she just withheld that, she withheld the growth of and sustenance that came from the earth until Persephone returned from the underworld. And they came to an agreement, Pluto and Ceres and Persephone, that Persephone would stay in the underworld for half of the year and then would come back and return to her mother for the other half of the year. And that when that return happens is when the bounty of nature, Ceres allows the bounty of nature to come forward again. So that's the kind of a very short.
Yeah. Good points, Amanda, because what I picked up immediately as code words were grief, intense grief. We're talking about grief that where you feel something has been taken from you. Now, of course, this does relate back to the whole cycle of spring and winter, and people in agricultural worlds. We're all dependent on food, thank you. And we, but still, it's very important. And to reclaim that, those are the themes, it seems. Susie, did you have something you wanted? I can see you buzzing. No?
Not yet.
Well,
Not yet.
Okay, that's all right.
I'll say also that it's about like the natural cycle of things too, and just allowing for that natural cycle to flow and letting go when it's time to, and then allowing it to come back when it's correct. And that works really well with the Jupiter and Pisces energy that we're moving into at the same time.
Yeah.
Going back to Ceres from our notes, we always have a pre-chat. And Demetra George, for those folks that are interested in she was at that time an asteroid. So it's with her asteroid goddesses. She wrote a fascinating book. But Actually, Ceres is now a dwarf planet because when astronomers, when they discovered so many more celestial bodies, redefined things, and that's an empowerment. They're all transformational. We're talking about death, rebirth, the cycle, just like your little lily that you plant or daffodil, whatever it might be, and it returns. So the code words were like, it has a sense of Cancer, nurturing, the life death polarity of Taurus and Scorpio, and Virgo, which essentially is the goddess, the mother goddess, the grain, the feminine. It's kind of a complex archetype, you know.
It's very
Virgo.
complex, and there is so much about Ceres. Like I mean, Dimitri George tags those 4 zodiac signs as associated with her, and that just tells you, like, if there are 4 signs, you know, there's a lot going on with that archetype. And really, when we're looking at Ceres, we're looking, one of the big things that ties in with Cancer is that mothering, your relationship with your mother, your relationship, if you are a mother, your relationship with your children.
Talk about, Amanda, the child. Right now might be a good time because we are in Taurus. Uranus is in Taurus. I mean, Taurus is survival. It's self-sufficiency. It has to do with the life force. It's the second sign. It's resources. It's artistic. Yeah. I mean, there's many things, but I know you also wanted to bring a point in. So maybe now would be a good time to.
Well, I just want to talk a little bit about how Ceres can kind of go into her wounding, because Ceres is beautiful energy when it's in that nurturing and mothering energy, but it can go off the rails into very, very deep wounding. So if the Dimitri George, this is how one of the phrases that she says, if Ceres' mother love is absent or lacking in childhood, it provides the basis for poor self-image, low self-esteem, and self-rejection in later years. And other things associated with Ceres are eating disorders, disordered eating, relationship complexes, withholding love or nurturing or sustenance, and kind of being too attached to things. That's that Taurus energy, or obsessively holding on to something. Yeah. Like that's Scorpio too. And then if you look at the Ceres Persephone archetype, like they did have a closeness that in our modern world, we probably would call a little bit codependent. And so there's a piece there where when Persephone is taken to the underworld, Ceres, it's like she loses a part of herself. And so you can see that archetype play out on the external, or if you're looking at it from an internal perspective, it's like, where has your own inner child been abducted to the underworld, or whereas it fragmented off because of trauma? So that's where the kind of the inner child piece comes in with Ceres and doing work around nurturing your own inner child.
That's the thing that. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, please.
No, I was just gonna say, I just had a tiny bit that kept sticking in my head was the sacrifice that, you know, Demeter had to make and consistently, you know, and it maybe just, that word just kept popping up. So, clearly for me, you know, thinking about the sacrifice that a mother makes for a daughter and the sacrifice that a daughter makes for a mother. And, you know, it on both sides, there's like so much to unpack when you think about the levels of things that we do, you know, as kids for our parent, for, you know, for our, we're just specifically speaking about mother, you know, for our mother. Or overdue, you know, and like that's, you touched, you know, and that codependence and that sort of thing, Amanda. There's gosh, there's so much. It really, you know, it's so interesting because I really didn't know that much about Ceres. You know, I've never really paid that much attention to it, to be honest with you. And this was really like the deeper I got into looking at all of this material, the more I was like, dang, you know, like you could just do, you know, like Jan Spiller did with the nose, like that could be your entire, you know, your entire
Yeah.
astrological career.
Well-
Let's just talk about your series, because that's going to unwind a
Let's
whole
get into your
bunch.
mother issues.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
There's
it
Well,
is
Pluto too, with like the power and control, father
totally.
issues. So it's all tied in. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
Well, the
and-
child, what I was
Sorry.
thinking is, that's okay, is that love. When a child's love to the parent, I mean, parents, of course, try to care in their own way, ideally, what they think is the best for the child. But for the child, there is a certain kind of unconditional love that a child can give to the parent that just says, yeah, I see that they're a mess, kind of in this way or that way, but I'm still going to be their buddy. I'm still going to love them. I'm still going to defend them or whatever. And so it is an involved process, and to reclaim those parts of yourself that allow yourself to be who you really are, despite what your parent might have been, like especially a mother that nurtures and births you and everything, to be able to go, no, we are separate people, and because that's what Persephone was. She was the goddess of the underworld. She had been a girl up with, and in some ways with mythology, to understand it is much larger than the melodrama story we tell, because it's that part of ourselves, the young person, the nurturing person, the mother of it, and then the crone later. It's the, and in between, there's more to it than just the procreation and everything, the personage.
Well,
Well,
and go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention that in some retellings of the myth, it's Persephone chooses to leave her mother. And so it's like she's kind of like going off with the bad boy Pluto kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so that just brings a whole other flavor to what kind of Ceres issues can look like in a chart.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to throw in also that loyalty factor, that Taurus Scorpio axis, is all about like loyalty to me. I'm loyal to you, and the loyalty, like you were talking about, Sue, that unconditional love or loyalty that we create with our parents, with our mother. Again, we're just talking about the archetype of the mom right now. That can be problematic. I mean, there are things that, and not necessarily, it doesn't always have to be problematic, but it can be something to work through later in your life, because we create these stories and these beliefs, in our minds from as we're a child, and as we mature, we just kind of play those out, and it isn't until we hit some sort of growth spurt or some sort of emotional wall that we realize, like, oh wow, I've been doing this thing because it's what I feel like I have to do to be loyal to my mother, but it's not mine to do anymore, and
Yes.
And it can really, like, Ceres is really all over that.
Yeah.
And I am thinking too, just to bring this is so excellent, but right now, for some reason, I've got an echo. Is that me? I hope not. At any rate, thank you. Okay. But right now, as a society, as a social construct, this country that we're from, the United States, or the globe for that matter, we've all had life taken away from us in a sense. There is that deep feeling that we have lost something, because we have the old manners of freely jumping on, just walking down the street, going to get a bite to eat, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And food, of course, is a huge part of Ceres. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up, that food, people with Taurus love, to engage. It's a very nurturing thing, and it's a natural thing. And of course, with Uranus and Taurus, that's too. But I'm feeling that this period of time, we need this compassion. And we can start talking maybe about Jupiter now in Pisces. That'll happen on the 13th and then return back. I think it's on, I have it written down, on July 28th. It'll go back. So it's a little bit after, a little bit before. Aha. And yeah, so that'll be significant. perhaps for him.
Well, and just before we move on to Jupiter, I'm inspired to share a quote. It's in Demetra George's Asteroid Goddesses book, and it's from Carl Jung. And it goes, every mother contains her daughter in herself, and every daughter her mother. Every woman extends backward into her mother and forward into her daughter. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
Yeah.
I love that.
Wow.
Maybe Amanda, later you could, I know when we finish, there's a comment that you can make on YouTube, and you could just type that in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
In
do
fact, that for our audience, you can comment too, always. Well, Jupiter is the biggest planet, and Jupiter has this 12-year cycle. And it is going in from Aquarius. They're both transpersonal signs, although, of course, they're personal. Thank you. I know we all have these signs that are, we all have them, but they're very pertinent in our charts of between the three of us. And so we're going from the collective conscious to the collective unconscious, right?
Love it.
And yeah, and there is great gifts of taking this compassionate part of the Ceres, because everything has a shadow side, you might say, that's unconscious, is one way of looking at it, of this whole realm of how it's like do you see the glass half full or half empty? That's a classic thing. But here, taking, rather than the grief of loss, taking that moment to reclaim and nurture oneself and other people. So with Jupiter in Pisces, it's really an opportunity.
You know, what just struck me about what you just said is, if think about it as, you know, again, this may sound really silly, but I like to break things down to, like, you know, Dick and Jane version. And so that's just me. But, you know, you think about this whole process of what was going on between Ceres and Demeter, and Ceres going down into the underworld and coming back, and, you know, on, right? And eventually, and again, I don't know if this is inherent in the myth, correct me if I'm wrong, but eventually, when you go through these cycles, when you're going through these things, eventually you got to think, like, you know, you've got to have some form of acceptance. You'll see where I'm going with this in a minute. There has to be some form of acceptance of, there's a higher reason for this. There's a bigger reason for this. I can't just keep coming up and down and being miserable when I'm down there and coming back, and you know what I mean? It's like, you know,
absolutely.
And so even
wears you
women
out.
who go, you know, like you were saying about, it's like dating the bad boys, you know. Eventually, usually, hopefully, pray to God, most women get it after a while. Like, that doesn't work for me, you know? And so, and they can look back and say, like, wow, I see why I had to go through all those bad boys. I'm talking about myself too a lot. This is very close to me today. But seriously, it's like, you know, so this is what I feel like this whole next realm, this whole next period is about. It's about, like, okay, we may have to keep going down and coming back up, and looking at our shadow side, coming back up, overcoming, and all of this. But now we're starting to sense that there is a bigger reason for this, instead of just like, every day is the same, just kill me now, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
It's like, now we can go, okay, how can I operate for the, you know, the good of the world here? What's my contribution? You know, so that's kind of the way I'm looking at this whole process. It's like, we finally are going to get that, you know, hopefully get that collective light bulb going off. Like, oh, I see why I had to go through all this.
And
crap,
there's so many ways we could. Like, for instance, we're just talking water. You know, a person could, if they're near the beach, they could clean up the beach. They could clean. I mean, there's so many things on different incremental levels, just because we have nodes in Gemini of our environment. I mean, even if it's not with people nurturing, you could nurture the ground, the earth, the world. And I think that's where a lot of it's going to go, is a bigger, real understanding of how the earth, maybe we'll even get a new consciousness of it. You know, there's this, I'm just talking with my husband last night, that Earth as a living organism, because we were watching David Attenborough, right? He loves David Attenborough. I've got the Burl, right? With all his nature, you're familiar, and the underwater seas and all the, everything is wonderful. But he was saying, could it really be from one cell? And so I started going back into all this dynamics of the astronomy, like, okay, we were this, it cooled down, this gaseous thing, and then blah, 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 et cetera. And the gravity that took the different gases in the water, and then the fire with the earth and changing it. So where am I going with this? I got lost. Let's see.
I love how Ceres moving into Taurus is coinciding with Jupiter in Pisces. And so like this, wherever Ceres is, it's like there's more, you're more comfortable moving into that energy because it's the higher octave of the moon. So there's a comfort level with it. So being like more in tune with nature, nurturing yourself through being in nature or nurturing nature itself. And I just love that this period is like moving together, and that there's that potential for having more compassion for the earth while also nurturing yourself and the earth at the same time.
Rewilding ourselves in a nutshell. Thank you, Amanda.
Like
back
that.
home.
And you know what? Because I was going to say, Jupiter and Pisces, neither one of them are terribly fond of details. So when you're talking about, it's like, how's this going to work? Too much work. No, it's like, but that what you just said, like that really struck me, that rewilding, because this is about being adventurous, being bold, being brave, being, all of these things, but from a place of, connection, recognizing the connection to all.
And the body. I've been noticing, every week prior, things come to my attention. I go, oh my gosh, that's like a little added message from the universe. And one of them is about somatic movement. I don't know if Amanda, you and I did some somatic movement.
We talked about that with Uranus moving into Taurus.
Yeah, yes, and I actually did some earlier. And I mean, back in Seattle, here I am. But the whole idea that somatic movement, you can learn how the pains, in other words, the body motion, also not getting away from the detail, the work, like you're saying, doing another format of
something physical and external.
Exactly.
And
the body.
Getting back into the body, because trauma is stored within the body, and so sometimes we want to leave the body because of that, and we don't even realize we're doing it.
And
I know.
And
how do I get out of here?
That's the shift that we're going to see, though. We're going to see, of course, is common sense tells you we're going to see more escapism, but as much as, the hope is that more people will come back into that blend of, body, mind, and spirit. Yeah.
There's a big opportunity, I think, with this transit, with the Ceres in Taurus and Jupiter in Pisces at this time, for kind of like starting that process. And the fact that Ceres is moving into Taurus means it will be in co-presence with Uranus. So there's an ability to kind of like break free from the old stories.
Yes.
That have kind of been holding us back.
I would welcome that. Sag rising, I have battled weight my entire life. So talk about expansion. I've spent my life expanding and occasionally contracting, but mostly expanding.
Oh, I've had that Jupiter transit through my first. It was
it is a matter of nurturing. I hear you.
But it's the emotional component that I have not yet conceded to or accepted or understood.
We could actually have a whole
thing right there.
A huge class about this in ourselves, because we're hardly alone, and on any dimension. And because I know that there is a person named Jonathan, somebody I can't remember, Wright or somebody. No, that couldn't be right. But at any rate, the point is that he has this whole psychological 10-minute thing a day, and I did it, and it's really nurturing yourself. It's saying, and we have to take a little break and go freedom into the next half hour. A moment here. But it was amazing. And right now I'm not in that zone. I did that last year, and right now I'm in the zone. No, I'm feeling bad, and I'm going to feel better. I'm going to have some popcorn, thank you.
Yeah.
With lots of butter. Anyway, okay. Amanda,
healthy nurturing. That's what we need with Ceres and Taurus and Jupiter and Pisces.
Yeah, celery with peanut butter. I don't know. Yeah, put some chocolate on that, and then yes.
Now I'm hungry.
Deep fry it.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
gosh.
That's the Taurus way.
Okay. All right. We have Amanda Pearson, Susie Cartwright, and myself, Sue Rose Minahan, Talk Cosmos, Cosmic Collaboration. And we're talking about compassionate truth. And we're going to talk more about that subject when we get right back. And thank you so much. And happy Mothers again to yours and those you love. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We're currently in the period of Taurus. By leaving a cycle based upon initiation, the energy of Taurus integrates spirit into a solid form of matter that is tangible and physical. It's an earth sign, concerned with self-sufficiency and the values to maintain the strength of a life form throughout its survival.
Whether we know it or not, each of us are on a quest to discover our true self. And the road we travel to accomplish this goal is unique for each of us. This is Marie O'Neill's hero's journey of walking her path and overcoming hardship and heartache in her book, And the Lotus Opened. As a memoir of enduring an absent mother and a harsh pseudo-family, and surviving ongoing abuse and trauma, Marie learns to trust in the divine and in her inner self, and release herself from the emotional chains that bound her. She discovers her personal power and who she is, and she learns what being free really means. Now available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com in either hardcover, paperback, or ebook, you can order Marie O'Neill's book, And the Lotus Opened, and let Marie be your guide as she leads you on your path to authentic freedom, using metaphysics, astrology, Buddhism, and healing practices.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Hello, this is Marie O'Neill with Padma Life Coaching, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars.
No other station delivers this much variety. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi again. This is May 9th. Talk Cosmos, Cosmic Collaboration, every month, and we're in the period, archetypal period. We're not of Taurus, so everything's relating to Taurus one way or the other. But right now, Ceres went into Taurus. It was a dwarf planet, and we talked about that. And Jupiter on the 13th is going to go into Pisces, and they are teammates. They are redirecting our psychological download, you might say, from that as Hermetic code, as above, so below. And it goes back and forth. There's lots of ways. Every direction, we're getting it. Up, down, out, in. It's a reflection and an integration. So Jupiter, what really strikes me is, before we start, Amanda, we were going to do it at the end, but let's do it now because we may get carried away at the end.
Sure.
You have a class coming up, and it is about meditation. And so this will kind of segue. And I don't know if you're doing it in person in the Seattle area, because Susie's in Tennessee, I'm in Hawaii, and you're in Seattle. Okay.
It's actually going to be online, and it's starting July 3rd. It's a 4-week class. And so it's a journey kind of to strengthen your own unique connection to source using meditation techniques. And so if you're on a path towards your own personal power, then this may be the course for you. And if you, it's at 1 p.m. Pacific time, starting July 3rd. If you have any questions or are interested, you can email me at amandamoonastrology@gmail.com. And did you have a question, Sue?
Well, I think you can put that in the chat.
Okay.
I think, Amanda, and then also you could put that as a commentary, I guess, if you feel like it. I don't know, think about that twice. But the point is that Talk Cosmos, for all our listeners, all our guests, Susie Wright and Amanda Pierce, they're on, at the menu. You can find all their contact information. And Susie, you've been on, thankfully, lovely, wonderfully this year. But just to say that if you have upcoming events, that you want to notify, we can do that. I mean, we have.
Cool.
Yeah. So this is excellent. And I just wanted to comment, I did partake with your first class a year ago, and I have the opportunity to take it again, which I will do, because that is part of the benefit. There's a lot of benefits with it. And I have done a lot of meditation, but I will agree with you, Amanda, that it's a very powerful experience. So with that said, I'm glad
it's
you're
very
doing
experiential. It's not like anything else out there. No,
and I know you've studied it a long time. So, and there's many roads. That's the other thing I want to get down to. This is so perfect because with what struck me when I was reading about Jupiter, because it's belief systems. Right now, our South Node is in Sag, so it's ruled by that. And there's the old adage, many roads lead to Rome, is so true. It really has to make me realize, because we can get very opinionated. I mean, I have, I can think like, oh yes,
not me,
okay.
Never.
I have no opinions.
Yeah. But truly, there's so many ways to have that meditative, compassionate experience. So it brings a great point to bring that out. But the real fact is that with Jupiter and Pisces, we are going to feel, and I think this is right up your alley here, Susie, to talk about that so many of the spiritual, I mean, it's up all our alleys, but that bringing in the spiritual into life as an experience of.
Well, we've been watching the explosion since Neptune hit Pisces. I mean, it literally. I was working at a metaphysical store back, 2008, 2009, and it was almost like as Neptune was getting, I know we're veering off a little bit, it's kind of all tied in, as Neptune was starting to ingress into Pisces, was starting to head into Pisces, the phones would blow up. My house is haunted. Oh my God, I was a Christian, now I'm not. My spirituality is exploding. I'm seeing ghosts. What is happening to me? I mean, it was almost like clockwork. And I had been sitting there for a couple of years before going, yeah, we're going to see a little bit of an explosion of people like growing into their spirituality. And it was like, that first, and it came in waves. It came in the decans, that first second of Pisces, and then the second, and the third. And so, and we're in the third now, and we talked about that last time. But anyway, so this is just another elevation of like, we're watching the religions dissolve and morph and change. And unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know, depending on what you think of it, we're not seeing that joining, reconnecting yet, and so this is going to be interesting to see what where this goes. I mean, there's so many people that are still for lack of a better term, waking up, and this is really
maybe that's it. Okay, if it went from 28 degrees of Aquarius and returning to 28 degrees, Aquarius is the awakener. I'm just thinking that. And I'm thinking with this compassion that we're talking about, and also going inward, because when it goes back into retrograde in Pisces, which happens June 20th, when it starts being, it's retrograde, and then until for a month, over a month, until July 29th, when it finally goes back into Aquarius, it'll be ourself, and we'll be able to reclaim, like what we were
Yes.
talking earlier with Ceres. And I'm thinking too, with this emphasis with Ceres, even if a person, we have all different relationships with the greater source, spirit, and the world, right?
Yes.
Whether we're conditioned through certain thoughts or we are individuating, and I mean, those are just some terms to say it. But the point is that I was thinking, what a great segue from doing compassionate work, whether especially for the earth or for other people or for oneself, to reconnect it. There is a connection, I think, that automatically, I don't know if it's automatic, but it would tend to reinforce that connection with the greater spirit that we're not.
There's
conformed.
definitely that opportunity to kind of reconnect with the spirit with Jupiter coming into Pisces. And we're just going to like touch into it a little bit.
We just get a little peek, you know?
Yeah, just a little peek and see how it's going to come through. And then I think like because Jupiter, it's all about expansion. So with Neptune moving, I love that you brought that up, Susie, Neptune moving into Pisces, because that's so Neptune in its own sign. Jupiter also is in its own sign in Pisces. It's the traditional ruler. So, and it's expansive. So it's just going to like really blow it up the way that Neptune and Pisces did. And they're going to be together.
I just want to say, this is like a be your own guru time. This is where you get to be your own guru, your own source, you know. There's keeping in mind, well, I mean, again, you know, with whatever your belief is, but you know, if there are many paths, right? And this could be an awakening for a lot of people to find a new path or some, you know, or can connect with some things, or I don't even know, you know,
something more authentic, you know, like that Jupiter.
Yes, and meditation is that time where we not only cut out the rest of the world. It's a process. At first, you're just trying to hear what is and be in that space. And there's different ways to meditate. You know, some do breath, some do the visualization with pictures, or there's leading, or there's a myriad of ways. But it does make it so suddenly you're hearing what you're hearing in its own and recognizing it. You know, there's.
Yeah, I think visualization is a great technique during Jupiter and Pisces. Like, I mean, because visualization, it's more than
goes with Taurus. Taurus is like nonverbal; it's artistic.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, that does flow in really well with the Taurus. But you know, beliefs are more than just our thoughts or thinking. It's kind of like it's more encompassing than that. And so visualization can kind of encompass a lot more.
Yeah, it's cellular. They get in our DNA. So doing like, I think so. What is somatic? Is that
it's body.
It's like adjusting, but the
somatic
body.
is somatic. Yeah.
So you know, really, really tying that all in. I mean, this has been, you know, so interesting. I was just thinking about the Jupiter. You know, when you think Jupiter in Aquarius, and it's like all about like the groups and the collective and finding your tribe and all that, and it's like, wow, for that whole year that was an experience, or like that was an energy, we were locked away from each other. Like that just hit me. I'm like, what was up with that? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, but
and Saturn was right there with it, so it kind of like tamped it down.
But
you're right. Yeah.
It has that virtue of hearing one's own tempo instead of always reflecting back. You know, just think of marketing. Of course, we need marketing. People at this day and age, we have money, we have people sell things, whatnot, but we get inundated with the standards of what marketing has, is this little perfection and that little perfection. And, you know, do we really like those clothes? Most times I hate the clothes. Every time it's like, no way, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, all my life. And so, but here I say it's a time to learn from our souls. Isn't that great? So that goes along with being our guru. Yeah.
Well, what was really cool about it was last year, and I think I shared this before with you guys, it's like what I was noticing, you know, in connecting with the groups that I was connected with last year online, you know, Aquarius, right? It did fit. It was just, that thing I just said was kind of something that just jumped in my head. But I noticed people were syncing up with the cycles of the Earth and the Moon more. And of course, you know, we gave the Earth such a huge space to breathe
Yes.
while we stopped. That was incredible. And you could almost just feel it going, thank you, and so now as we come back and we're going into this whole other dimension here, it's like, how do we merge without losing ourselves again in this whole busy world, and with all of this, the new information coming in so many ways again. It's like, how do we remain true to ourselves again, that Jupiter Aquarius, but we're now moving into the collective with the with the more of that merging sense. Are we gonna over merge, or are we gonna lose ourselves again? Or
I love this questioning. This is brilliant. This is all what I love about cosmic collaboration. We can just come up with, because it makes me realize new ways of expressing ourselves, new ways. It's like, right, if everybody says, what's the new norm? Well, in a way, you move to a new city, you have to come up with new grocery stores or whatever it is. But here we have here a chance to reboot. We can use music, artwork, meditation, cleaning up the environment in any way, the ocean, the waters, networking on TV or whatever, etc. But it really sounds, and it reminds me of what I got lost about. Gaia is live. So this idea that Gaia is live, I know I get kind of fixed and I get conditioned like all of us. And I've had to think like, but now I am getting it. Live is live. Live doesn't come from dead. In other words, our life is live. And as we came out of like evolutionary things, it came out of live forms, whether that was a rock or a stone or a gas or something. It had a DNA. And so that's, what was that? What's that?
The primordial ooze.
Exactly. Like if it was fissures of heat coming out of the earth, like in the water, where life forms, and then it goes from replicating to suddenly dividing, and which is all like, look at even the bad bug, COVID. It morphs all the time. Well, so did life. So I'm thinking,
it's mutable. It's very Pisces.
Wow. And this consciousness, in other words, of we may really, a bigger tipping point may begin to really give reverence to our earth, to our home, that gives a new nurturing sense of how our part is, and recognizing it's not just, we may say, it's just a tabletop like earth is, but no, there's a depth, there's a connection. It goes into animism a little bit,
Yeah. That kind of, so I wanted to talk about, and I think this dovetails nicely into this, the idea of the sacred dream and how that lines up with Jupiter and Pisces. And the sacred dream being the idea that this world is more of a dream state than we realize, and that our current understanding of reality is kind of an illusion, that we have more control and can mold and dream into existence our own realities. So it's really like just true co-creation with the universe. And Jupiter in Pisces is it's going to be such a delicious time to work with the universe in that way.
Law of attraction. Just dive in, guys. We're manifesting all the time, whether we are aware of it or not. So
it could be so magical. And so the more that we are collectively gearing towards something like, let's save the earth, let's make the earth beautiful, the more that power or that can manifest into reality.
And I'm starting to hear that more from people, where we've been, it's kind of like we came together and then we were tossed apart and, divided. And now I'm starting to see people kind of getting that. And I'm hearing rumblings of that from some of my associates and just friends. And, it's like, hey, wait a minute, we've been missing the bigger picture here. The truth, right? Jupiter is coming through, right? We're missing the bigger picture here. We're fighting this and we're fighting that, and we're arguing here and we're arguing here. And wait a minute, we need to be connecting and manifesting together.
Yeah, because
more
that's
we
just a
do that.
downward spiral. The more
Yep.
that you argue and get upset at others about things, the more it just kind of gets worse. And
Yeah.
it's like, that's what
And
we're
it
seeing.
does in a very sneaky way. I was just realizing, give
Mhm.
attention to the self. It's like, I don't like this, and therefore I'm so important, right? Which,
The
I mean,
ego, Jupiter ego.
yeah. And I'm thankful. I had circled truth and this
Awesome.
whole idea, and I know and the dreaming, and this whole idea of using different expressive ways to get.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There's your next wave, maybe it's not some new age thing. Maybe it's just going back to reclaiming what we have the power to do.
Yes.
Oh.
I love that.
Bingo.
Go ahead.
Oh, I just was going to say there's a quote. I looked up those, a couple quotes from Albert Einstein, everybody's favorite Pisces. He has such great quotes about imagination. And so just because this really works well with Jupiter and Pisces, he said, imagination is more important than knowledge. For while knowledge defines all we currently know and understand, imagination points to all we might yet discover and create.
Yes.
I just love that,
I
like
know,
kind of
it's
the
so good.
merging
Yeah.
of imagination with
Yeah.
knowledge, and that imagination then becomes the truth, which becomes
Yeah.
knowledge.
It's all the potential possibilities. Let's see if I can grab this. Oh, okay. There are some other thoughts too that this goes into, that we talked about, because with the truth, that we're not only going to see what we want to see as a truth, but what we have to see as a truth. And that's part of it. But not only what we have to see as a truth, but what comes into us inconveniently exposed as that is the reality of things that we're going to, I think Susie, but I've heard too, that is a really, and also this idea that that you had brought up, that we may be our own like guru, which is, what is that? That's our own teacher, the great teacher, because Jupiter is the teacher, but also that who comes forth as what society recognizes as a big teacher or rejects as teachers will be also a shifting climate. So of course that gets back to, I think, our South Node, which collectively we're trying to dismember, you might say, what doesn't work, and reconstruct a more holistic sense of beliefs and faiths, because it has everything to do about faith. And the last, just to tie in, because I know we have some time here. Oh, we don't have much time. Is entertainment. Now, I want to say that next week is going to be Planet Buzz. So tune in, folks. But right now I'm with Cosmic Collaboration, and it's Amanda Pierce and Susie Kerr, and Kerr Wright, and we're talking about compassionate truth for ourselves and for others. Mm-hmm.
I want to say one last thing, because me, I'm like getting obsessed now too with the Sabian symbols, and that 28 degrees we were talking about, where Jupiter and Jupiter's going to be hanging at that 28 degree mark.
Bookmarks, right?
And
series.
The 28 degrees Sabian symbol for that is a butterfly emerging from the chrysalis. So this is really, there's some real magic going on here.
Yes.
And this uncomfortableness and this back and forth that we've been in, I feel like this is, I think this is more the point that we've all been waiting for. What's coming up, we've been saying for we're just waiting for this moment, and spiritual people have been, we were born for this time, and yes, truth, we were born for this whole time, but this maybe is the time where we get to see, oh yeah, now it makes sense.
Potential possibilities.
And it could be also that this is what is the energy that propels us out of the funk we've been in with the pandemic.
Yep.
So last time Jupiter transited through Pisces was in 2010. That was right after the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. It helped us get out of that. So this could be that Renaissance period that comes after a pandemic historically.
And that is historic. And we are in this enormous transition. So I think getting used to uncertainty, which is about, but seeing the
potential
beauty.
in it.
Yes, the potential, and
Yeah.
getting back to ourselves. And if
Opportunity.
nothing else, if we can't help ourselves at first, we can help others. And then that reflects back to something to ourselves. Well, thank you to our audience. We love you. And yes, this is Susie Carey-Wright and Amanda Pierce, and I'm Sue Rose Minahan. And tune in again, give your comments, and yeah, Amanda, give us that little quote. Okay.
I will. Thanks, guys.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.